Welcome to FranCoach's Franchising 101 podcast series. Here we talk about all things franchising. What is it all about? Is it for you? How do you find the best one to own? And so much more. Now your host, Tim Parmeter.
Hello, everyone, and thanks again for tuning in to FranCoach's Franchising 101 podcast. I am Tim Parmeter, founder and CEO of FranCoach and your podcast host. Today is going to be another installment of really my absolute favorite thing that we do here on the Franchising 101 podcast. It is a series called In Their Words. And it is cleverly titled that because in this segment, we're going to hear directly from franchise owners, FranCoach clients who become franchise owners. And they're going to talk to us in their words about their background, what led them to consider franchise ownership, how they navigated the process with the FranCoach team, what franchise they chose. I don't know. There'll be some other things that we're going to talk about as well, but a ton of stuff. And this is a really even especially cool episode because today's guest originally connected it with the FranCoach team after listening to the Franchising 101 podcast. So we've gone from listener to franchise owner / guest. But before we tell you all about our guest and get them on, let's tell you our quick story. Again, FranCoach is a national search firm dedicated to working with individuals interested in owning a franchise. We are partnered with well over 600 of the top franchisors in the country, spanning nearly 70 industries. Our goal is to help clients find the best franchise for them to own. And the goal of the Franchising 101 podcast is to help educate people on all aspects of franchise ownership. All right, now let's get to the good stuff. Joining us today from the great state of Alabama, a little disappointed we don't have any Crimson Tide stuff in the background, but whatever. Joining us today is Mr. Ryan Day. Ryan, thanks for joining us, brother.
Thanks for having me on, Tim. I really do appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk about the fact that, yes, I was a listener originally to get some more information about this, and that kind of led me to this journey we've now started.
Awesome, man. And tell us a little bit, give us a scoop on, before we talk about franchising and all your journey here, there was a life of Ryan prior to, FranCoach. I'm sure it wasn't nearly as fulfilling and as amazing, but give us a little scoop on Ryan, kind of your background, kind of what you've been doing leading up into this point.
Yeah, so I graduated college back in 2019, and the dream was, work for corporate America, get you something steady that just makes sense. It pays the bills. It makes a decent living. That was kind of the American dream, right? Well, I did that for about 2.5 years and really quickly discovered that this is not where I truly belong. And COVID, as I'm sure for a lot of people, really helped kind of push that. Being in the office around people was really nice at the time. I'm a very personable, extroverted kind of guy. So I could at least talk with my coworkers and converse. Well, when COVID hit, we all went home and I was behind a desk in my living room for 5 days a week. I wouldn't leave the house. It was very isolated. And I'm sure it was for a lot of people. And so that really taught me that, my talents aren't being utilized in the best ability probably possible. And so I said, okay, well, let me try and find some other avenues that may work better for me. And while also trying to find a passion of sorts, I also wanted to figure out a way to boost my income as much as possible. And so I knew the only way to really control the amount that you could possibly make and your schedule, among other things, is through sales. Now, I was terrible at sales. It's something I'd never done before. And so I wanted to take this next step in a way that I felt comfortable, but also was challenging. And so I had remodeled a home before, and I really enjoyed the process. I said, real estate really makes sense to me. So I decided, it's almost like there's a job that exists for that. It's a real estate agent. So I decided to really take that next step as a realtor, and I was extremely successful. So grateful to be able to help the families that I've been able to help, do the things I've done. I was able to sell 28 homes my first year. It was an incredible experience. And so that being said, I quickly even found out in that first year that I'm only one person. I can only do so much on my own. And so in order to continue kind of, expanding and accelerating my career as essentially a business owner as a real estate agent, but also creating something for my own, I knew I would have to start a business of some kind. But I had no idea what I would start it as. I mean, I didn't have any crazy tech idea for starting a company. I wasn't passionate about anything else to really want to from the ground up, just start something on my own. And so that being said, I had read some forums and seen some things online about the opportunity of a franchise where you could buy in to a business that already had a set plan, a certain way to do things, and a very well-structured process to see better results than starting on your own. And so I wanted to learn more about it. I'm definitely one of those people that, if I have a crazy idea about something, I definitely want to dive in and read more about it to be able to know, like, is this the right move for me, and not just diving into something blindly. And so I try to read more about it. I'm just going to be honest with you, Tim, and for everybody that's listening, I am not a reader. Okay. It's very difficult for me to sit down and read books and have the time, especially, working with, 5 to 10 clients at one time, trying to sell. My goal this year is to sell 40 homes. So that's a very difficult task for me to do. Just there's not enough time in the day. But as a realtor, you're driving everywhere. And so as I'm driving these, 45 here, an hour here, back and forth between houses, you can listen to music, but you could also learn, take the opportunity while you're driving to listen to a podcast. So I said, surely on Spotify, there's got to be somebody somewhere talking about it to figure out a little more about, what franchising is. And so I just did a search on Spotify, looked up franchising, and this was the first thing that came up was Franchising 101. I said, well, that's probably a good opportunity to learn a little bit. So I started at episode 1 and worked my way up. And by episode 40, I think, I was like, all right, this sounds like something I need to get some more information on. And Tim, you did a phenomenal job of saying, hey, there's no, you don't have to commit to anything. There's nothing saying that you have to do this, but just give me a call, sign up for a time, and let's just talk a little bit about this and if this could actually work for you. And so I said, you know what, I got nothing to lose. Let me try this avenue. So that's what led me to you.
And I'll not make too much fun of you for waiting 40 episodes before you reached out. And as my wife likes to point out, to anybody, like, don't start at the ones at the beginning. They sucked. You didn't know what you were doing. Right. So you had to kind of get into some of the ones where it started to get a little bit better. So I totally understand. So, do you remember, I don't know if you remember this, you sent us a note online, which, by the way, FranCoach.net, franchising 101 podcast.net, just in case anybody wants to know what that is. You sent us a note when you booked the call. And you had a question. Do you remember what that was? I'm totally putting you on the spot because it just popped into my mind.
Man. Yeah, no, I think I had like 3 questions on there because I definitely wanted to know more, but I don't remember what they were.
So the one that sticks in my mind, because you started off talking about, hey, you graduated college in 2019. I have socks probably that are older than you, right? And so, because you're what, 27, 28, something like that, 26, 27, 28, somewhere in there,
about
right?
to be 26, yeah.
About to be 26? Oh, I do have socks older than you. Okay, 26. So one of your things was like, is that going to be a problem, right? Is age going to be a problem? Because in the corporate world, I mean, you're not getting anywhere near climbing the ladder at, like, you got to start having some gray hair, right? Right. For that. So it's a common thing. And I think the majority of our clients kind of come in 2 broad age buckets. They come in what people tend to think is the older, right? Maybe 40, 45 plus, right? They've been in the corporate world for 20 plus years. They're just tired of beating their head against the wall, working for somebody else. They've climbed the ladder to a point, but there's a ceiling, right? And then there's the ones that are probably like mid 20s, early 30s. And they are the ones that figured out, like you were talking about, like it took you a couple years to figure out what it took my generation decades to figure out. Working for somebody else sucks, right? And how do you find that thing? And is that going to be an issue in franchising? And I remember our very first call, like, no, it is not. Are there some franchises that there might be? Yes, but that was also one of the things that, we know that, but for the most part, they don't care about that. You're somebody hungry, driven, you're going to follow a plan. Then it's just trying to figure out what that plan is, right? So as you got started with this, right, and we kind of got you into the point of kind of figuring out like, what do you need, because you're killing it as a realtor, and you're doing so in the most modern, hip, densely populated metro area on the planet, known as Huntsville, Alabama, right? So to do that type of volume is just speaks volumes to you of how good and how hard of a worker you are. But as you started looking now at franchises, and we're building this out, and we start looking at the actual franchises, talk a little bit about that process, right? I think we started with 4 for you, and as we started kind of going through and vetting them, talk about some of the things that you learned through that process that we ultimately got to where we needed to be.
Yeah, so I think a really important thing to remember, and for all the listeners out there, when it comes to finding the right franchise for you, if you really are interested in taking this avenue, Tim, you did a really great job of letting me know that this is not like a typical interview with some corporation, right? The important thing to know is really, what do you want to get into? Not just what does the franchise do, who are they, and that kind of stuff. But I think the main first thing you have to figure out is truly what kind of work do you want to be in? Do you want to be super into a product? Do you want to be, provide a premier service to somebody? Do you want to help people? To what level and extent do you want to be involved in this business? How much, money do you want to put into this? How much risk are you willing to take? Those are kind of things initially, I think, that are important to know when going into this. And that's a lot of the conversation we had just for that, that first call when you said, okay, let's learn a little bit more about Ryan. Tell me about you, things you're interested in, what really flips your switch. And I know that if anybody's listened to any other episodes, the what gets you out of bed in the morning thing, right?
Yep.
So it was really important for me to know those things coming up front to be able to tell you about and to then find in a franchise as well.
Yeah. And as we kind of got deeper into this, and I'll go kind of jump forward a little bit. So before I ask my question, which franchise ultimately did you land on?
So I chose Home Clean Heroes.
Okay. And now I'm going to put you on the spot again. Give us because you are just a couple weeks after signing a franchise agreement. Give us a 30-second. What's your 30-second elevator pitch on Home Clean Heroes? Ready, go.
All right. So the thing I have to always ask people up front is, especially when it comes to sales, you're going to have these door-to-door kind of instances, just like we're doing right now, about, tell me about your company. Well, the thing is, before I can tell you anything about it, you have to ask the question, is your time valuable? Yes or no. Most people would usually answer yes. In that instance, you say, okay, now are your weekdays or your weekends more valuable? Most people will tend to say their weekends because that's when they spend time with their family. They do recreational things. Well, what's the number one thing people don't really want to continue taking time on that takes away from their personal life? It's cleaning their home. Having a clean home is the world to you, the way that you feel inside your home. Having guests over, it sends a message to people that you take care of the things that you own. And it's important to you and others that you have a very clean living area. And so what I say is, well, if your time really is that valuable to you, maybe you should look into a service that can give you that time back. So we can provide, this service to you in any way, shape, or form as far as timing. What day works best for you? Is there a certain time of the day that works best for you that does not interfere with you, your family, or any activities you have going on? Let's earn that time back for you.
Yes, sign me up. I'm good. So, and I think as we looked at some other franchises, and there were a couple that were, I think, kind of looking back at some of our conversations, there was definitely some interest in, and a lot of them had kind of that synergy for you also with real estate, right? So any sort of home service franchise, one of the main people you've got to kind of build relationships with would be realtors. Realtors are the best referrers on the planet, right? They've got somebody for everything. And Brian, if I was a client of yours trying to buy a house in Huntsville, first, like, why would I want to do that? But the second thing is, right, I would be like, I need somebody to do this, and this. You're going to have people lined up, right? So you've got that, again, you've already have that network from a referral standpoint. You know how important it is to find high quality people that can do that work, because the bar in home service is so ridiculously low, right? And so as we were looking at things, as a realtor, your life is not the most steady, stable, consistent existence, right?
Not
There's
at all.
ups and downs.
Not
You're
at all.
going, right? You may sell 10 houses one month, the next month it might only be 3. Things fluctuate with the market. It's a buyer's market, it's a seller's market, whatever. One of the things I remember you talking about as we were looking at some of the other things with Home Clean Heroes and just that industry is the simple, steady, never going away, long-term residual income as a balance kind of for you, right? So as you're now kind of getting started with, can you already kind of see how important that's going to be and how beneficial that's going to be for you and your life?
Absolutely. And that kind of ties back into what I had said about figuring out what's most important for you, right? And for me, it was to create something that would become steady for my future family down the line. I mean, I'm not married and I don't have children, but that day will come for me. At least I hope so. And so, I want to be able to have that steady lifestyle at the point where I can't put 60 hours into a week of work. You know what I mean? I mean, now I can dedicate a lot of time to helping those clients out and to be able to do what I love. But, I also wanted to create a business that wouldn't have me bounce around on the weekends. And so you really helped me find that out too. And frankly, I didn't realize that was going to be important until we started going over a lot of what these businesses, like a daily work life, would look like and how to manage them and things like that. So it really started ticking some franchises off the list because they wouldn't provide that kind of work to me. One of them specifically was really big on immediate service. It was a restoration business, and so they would basically need attention at that particular moment, and you'd have to go at any given moment. Well, I already have a job that does that. I don't want to sign up for another one, and so that's really important to figure out. I definitely think it's a big part of the process.
Yeah, it's always interesting, and even as long as I've been doing this, I don't always know what is going to be that differentiator as we go through this. But it's rarely what people think it's going to be up front, right? And is it the other thing I think for us, obviously the immediacy of the remediation, but a couple other things we looked at, we're handyman and a painting franchise, project-based, right? And what we learned is project-based wasn't best for you. You already kind of have that, right? That, again, that residual from a cleaning, if you come in and you do a good job, people, like, you're going to keep going back every week, every 2 weeks, whatever, and be there literally forever. Right. So some of those differentiators, and you did a fantastic job of just having that open mind to explore things that, again, let's be honest, residential cleaning isn't going to win any awards for sexiest business on the planet. But it's also never, ever going away. Hey everyone, I wanted to take a quick break from our podcast to tell you about our amazing friends at Entrepreneur. If you're looking to become a franchisee or simply learn more about business ownership, and guys, let's be honest, you're listening to the Franchising 101 podcast, so we know you have some interest in it. Really encourage you to go to entrepreneur.com to check out all of their great content and resources. Seriously, Entrepreneur has everything, all the way from a bookstore to the best podcasts, webinars, and videos, plus information on upcoming events and the latest articles that seriously, they cover all aspects of franchising and business ownership. If you're having trouble deciding which franchise is right for you, start with Entrepreneur's renowned Franchise 500 ranking, which highlights the best franchises of 2022. For 45 years and counting now, Entrepreneur has been and can be the most widely recognized and respected authority in the franchise market. Digital and print subscriptions are available, so you never miss out on anything. So seriously, what are you waiting for? Go to entrepreneur.com right now and learn more. The other thing I want you to talk about kind of as we have this decision is, as you got to know everybody within Home Clean Heroes, how important was it for you to really kind of build that connection and that trust with the franchise? And what were some of the things that you learned about their people and their culture that mattered to you?
Yeah, so I think a big part of that process was definitely for me to be able to ask the questions that mattered most and to have a conversation with people. And frankly, no matter what it was about, I want to know how you conversate left and right, because how we go back and forth about a conversation is how you're going to be portrayed by the other people you work with, the other executives on your team. So if I can't build rapport and a connection with anyone on the executive team, this probably isn't going to be a good relationship. And so as we worked through, the kind of the vetting process of figuring things out, the representative I was working with was phenomenal. He was super easy to work with and gave me a ton of information on things. Really never had this instance of, oh, I don't really know about that particular thing. I have to ask so-and-so about it. Like, the guy knew his stuff. He was on top of things, and that's what I needed. And so once I had gone to Discovery Day and I had sat down with them, got to meet their team, and really figured a lot of things out about them, it was a super smooth process. We learned a lot about each other. They asked great questions. They were genuinely interested in my life, what matters most to me, the important things to me, and personally and in business. They took the time to learn who I am. And I know for a fact that if they are willing to go this far with a potential franchisee, what they would do once the business grows even more.
Yeah, no, and absolutely. And there was somebody that went with you on that trip when you went out to Virginia on the Discovery Day. So we're not leaving her out. So we're going to come back to her for a second. But that
okay.
That culture and that connectivity is, again, it's one of those kind of like underlying things that people don't necessarily think about as they're getting into this. And I think we even talked about this kind of towards the end of the process of, okay, well, there's multiple cleaning franchises. Why this one? And some of the behind the scenes things with our relationship with franchises, I'd have been stunned if didn't mean it was going to be the right franchise. I'd have been stunned if you didn't have a great experience with them, with their team, with their culture. Austin James, who's the person you referenced with Home Clean Heroes, he's friggin' awesome. And having that connection, there is another cleaning franchise that's a great brand, but that age thing would have been a thing with them, right? They will constantly talk about how many of their owners have MBAs, like this ridiculously high percentage. Probably it's the same percentage or higher of like gray hair within their organization. Doesn't mean that's a bad franchise. That means that would not have been a good match for you. And that connectivity is so key, right? And you know, you really got immersed in that throughout the process, but especially when you got to Discovery Day. But who went to Discovery Day with you? And what was, I think, kind of one of that was like solidifying pieces for you of, you're not stopping being a realtor because you're killing it. So you're essentially coming in as that semi-absentee owner, but wanting somebody else that you can, I guess we can trust this person to be able to kind of help you run your business. So who is essentially kind of business partner enrolled in there with you to Discovery Day?
So I knew pretty much right away that I knew I could do this on my own, but did I really want to try and take this on by myself when I could potentially have help? And so it's funny enough you say this, because I do want everybody to know, as I was going through this vetting process and learning about Home Clean Heroes, what they could provide, all these kind of things, my mother was in the next room and she was hearing this stuff and was very, intrigued by it all, and started sitting in and watching some videos from them and learning the product herself. And my mother is retired, and so she is kind of searching for that next thing. My mom, I swear, is a 20-year-old at heart. And so she's still very, very sharp, very intelligent. She was in HR and IT for almost 40 years. I mean, a very long time to be doing the things she's doing at a very high level. And so she, I think, would be a huge part of this business if she could join along. And so we had a very long discussion about it. I told her what really interests me about, getting into a franchise at all, but let alone Home Clean Heroes. Started learning the product, the service, that kind of thing, and was very interested in moving forward on that front. And so we talked about it, and we decided that all of the things that I am absolutely terrible at, she is incredible at. She's a little more introverted. She's very, very organized and tech savvy and just knows her stuff when it comes to a lot of things, like I said, HR related. And I'm very good with people, but when it comes to extreme nitty gritty details, that's not always my best thing. I have ADD, and so my attention flies all over the place most of the time. I can hyper focus on certain things, but constantly looking at 8 or 9 different things throughout a business day would be overwhelming for me. And so knowing that, who else to entrust for a daily help than your own mother, right? And so we kind of came to the conclusion that she would be the operations manager and I would be kind of the general oversight on everything, but that she could help us really further that mission that Home Clean Heroes has and be able to serve our clients to the best of our possible ability, because the things that she's not particularly good at or that she doesn't want to handle, I'm good at and I will handle, and vice versa. She's good at the things that I'm not. And so she, we make a great team. She's allowed me to be able to hyper focus on those things that I can really be good at and be able to provide to our business. And then she can focus on the other things. So she is a huge help for us. And she did come with me on Discovery Day because, of course, if she's going to be a part of this, I wanted her to be able to meet the team as well and to be able to see, face to face what exactly we'd be working with.
Yeah. And hey, let's be honest, your mom, Barbara, she doesn't have any weaknesses. She's great at everything and she's carrying you along. So can we just get that? Like, Barbara, if you're listening to me, you're the awesome one. Yes. Okay. So, no, and it was so fun to also kind of like get to know, like, your mom's a freaking rock star. Right. And so, and then for her to be able to kind of meet the team and that combo, you guys really do have very, again, complementary skills with this. And you talk about the juggling all these different things. Well, I think the people that think, oh, I'm a great multitasker, in most cases, no, you're not, right? You're just doing everything half-assed, right? Versus being able to focus and understand. And again, I think you are wise beyond your years on, I am really good at these things, not so much here. Where can I find that help? Oh, like, it's the person who raised me, right, in this situation. Or, and again, not everybody's that fortunate. So then it's maybe going out to then, I got to find that person who can do X, Y, and Z that I'm not super good at. Or again, as an owner, that get out of bed test, it's like cleaning a house. Could I clean my house? I could, probably not very well, but I'm not gonna. I already saw the mess this morning my 9-year-old made after, like, his first day back right after the house being cleaned. So I don't want to do that. I want to source that out. Same thing for you as an owner. So super cool. And I know you guys are going through kind of the onboarding and training. Do we have yet a target date to be open?
Yes, our ideal opening date right now is set for July 1st, and we're hoping to stick by that. We've definitely done a really, really good job of staying on top of everything for onboarding, and it's a lot of stuff. So we want to make sure that we stay on that time frame, and ideally, if we could start sooner, that would be great. But yes, as of right now, our targeted start date is July 1st.
Awesome. Super cool. So for all of our loyal listeners in the Huntsville, Alabama area, when you need to buy a house, call Ryan. When you need said house cleaned, call Ryan and Barbara. So super cool. There's a distinct possibility I forget this, but once you guys, and so I'm just sharing this with everybody, once you guys get your social media and everything set up, make sure you share that with us so we can again, get tagged and share and all of those fun things that help kind of grow the business and create that awareness. So Ryan, I know you're super busy, so I greatly appreciate you taking some time. But last thing is, you've kind of gone through this like journey really from kind of where you came and where you are now as a franchise owner. But you were on the other end of this. You were listening to this crazy podcast at one point, trying to decide, like, do I call this old dude? Do I talk to them? What would you share with somebody that's maybe out there that is listening to this, that isn't sure if this is the right path or what to do next? What would you kind of share with them?
I think my biggest piece of advice, honestly, is, no one knows you better than yourself, right? If you're one of those people that has this compulsion to do more and to be better, I mean, honestly, it's narcissistic to say this, frankly, but when you just believe that you could do something better than other people, you're not seeing it to a standard that you probably could provide, or you just want to be somebody who can scale something and really start something incredible, you should definitely check something like this out. It's just a compulsion. I don't really know how to explain it other than that. I mean, I wake up every day and just kind of think to myself, like, how can I do this better? How can I be better at XYZ? And you got off days. There are some days I think to myself, I'm like, can I do this? I mean, I'm human, right? Like, there are definitely some faults, but when you start having these conversations with people in this arena, whatever it ends up being for a franchise, you start talking with other people. Business owners typically aren't smarter than you are. They're just people, right? We're all human. We all have our defaults and things that aren't great about ourselves. But at the same time, we're all very special in our own way, and we all have our own talents. So if you want to apply those and just do something more for yourself, I definitely think you should check this out. You do not have to commit to anything to give Tim a call and to figure out what could possibly work for you.
Yeah. I think in some ways it feels overwhelming. And I mean, let's be honest, then you're already going through the onboarding stuff and you realize, like, oh my gosh, how much stuff is there? But that's also part of the security blanket of the franchise model. They figured it all out, right? You have to follow the plan, put forth the effort. The trick is finding that plan and that system and those people that are the match for you. And you and Barbara just did a fantastic job going through this. And just that overall, I think people also don't realize franchises are awarded. You don't get to just go, yeah, hey, I'll have like 3 of these and do one of these. The franchise has to say, hey, Ryan, hey, Barbara, we want to award you that franchise. And you guys did just such an amazing job. Like, there was, like, again, at the end, there's never any doubt. It's like, yep, this is it. Let's go. I think probably the only hiccup for you guys was you got freaking sick after you went to after you went to Virginia to meet their team.
Right.
So
right after Discovery Day, man, on the way back, it was rough. I mean, we were not in a good spot. That day I got home, I think for the next 3 days, I was bedridden. I mean, it was brutal. So yeah, that was rough, but we know we still wanted to move forward on it. We just told the team, we said, hey, listen, it's not that we're really contemplating a decision. I just can't function at the moment. So
that's what you get for going out, like, partying all night long with your mom in Virginia at Meets Team Day.
I know, man.
She's such a bad influence.
It was good time. Memories, man.
Awesome. Ryan, man, I can't thank you enough. It's been just an absolute joy to get to know you guys. And I have no doubt you're going to be huge successes with Home Clean Heroes. And as you mentioned, it's not all rainbows and unicorns. There's some bad days along the way, but you got a great team behind you and a great support with your mom. So I can't thank you guys enough and wish you the absolute best of luck moving forward as franchise owners.
Thank you so much, Tim. I can't thank you enough, honestly, for starting me on this journey and being so open and welcoming and providing all this information to people who are listening in. I mean, I was one of them. So, without this podcast, I might not have gone down this road. So thank you so much for doing this, for providing this kind of information for people, and just being so open and flexible to everybody's different needs and desires in this kind of an industry. I mean, seriously, it takes a lot of your time and it's a big deal.
Awesome. No, my pleasure. And now that you're a franchise owner, however, the downside is we've gone from 7 listeners now to 6 because you don't need us anymore. So, but for the 6 still around, thank you for everybody for always tuning in and checking this out. Again, francoach.net, franchising101podcast.net. As Ryan said, you're listening, reach out. There's never any fee for our service. So we encourage you to take that first step today towards creating your better tomorrow. Thanks everybody for listening. We will catch up with you next week. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to FranCoach's Franchising 101 podcast, where our ultimate goal is to help educate you on all things franchising so you can create your better tomorrow.